Shadows in this neighborhood are long tonight, stretching like desperate skeletal fingers under the sickly amber glow of the street lamps. My breath comes in short, ragged gasps, misting in the freezing midnight air before vanishing into the dark. Every single scrape of my sneakers against the cold asphalt sounds deafeningly loud, a betrayal of my position to wherever is lurking out there. I keep looking back over my shoulder, my ribs aching from the sheer, violent friction of my pulse. My lungs burn. The air feels like shards of glass sliding down my throat. He is out there. I know he is. It started exactly 3 blocks ago, right after I passed the abandoned playground on Elm Street. That was when I first noticed the heavy, deliberate footsteps echoing mine. At first I tried to convince myself it was just an echo, or perhaps another late-night walker heading home. But the rhythm was too precise. When I sped up, those footsteps sped up. When I slowed down, they lingered just on the edge of the shadows, waiting. When I finally panicked and darted into a narrow, dark alleyway to lose him, the suffocating weight of his presence followed. It pressed down on my chest until the simple act of drawing air became a luxury. A thick, metallic panic clogs my throat, tasting like copper, old dust, and raw bile. The silence of these wealthy suburban streets is a graveyard, and I am rapidly running out of room to hide. My mind is unraveling under the pressure. The world tilts on its axis, blurring violently at the edges as a manic madness scratches at the inside walls of my skull. I can't go to my own home. If I do, he'll know where I live. He'll know how to find me tomorrow and the night after that. Every dark curtained window of these quiet, pristine houses stares back at me with blind, unblinking indifference. They are fortresses of safety, but I am locked on the outside. My legs feel like poured lead, trembling with absolute exhaustion, yet the terrifying certainty that he is closing the distance forces me forward. I feel utterly trapped, a helpless animal caught in a cruel, invisible maze designed by a sadist. There is no help coming. There is no police cruiser patrolling these back streets. There is no escape from this suffocating night. As I round another corner, my mind flashes with images of him. I know him. I know his routine. His name is David. He lives in the 2-story colonial at the end of the cul-de-sac. He works a mundane desk job, wears tailored blue suits, and walks his golden retriever every evening at precisely 6:30 p.m. He is a creature of absolute habit, a man who believes the world is safe, predictable, and kind. For weeks I've watched him from afar, learning the rhythm of his life. I know he lives alone. I know he forgets to lock his side gate on Thursdays. I know the exact bright smile he gives to his barista at the local coffee shop. A smile that belongs to someone who has never known true terror. In my frantic state, his face fills my vision. I think about how fragile David is, how oblivious. He doesn't belong in a world this dark, a world where things hunt in the night. The thought of him out here, exposed to the same faceless horror that is currently tracking me, makes my stomach twist into painful knots. I am running, but in my head I am trying to protect him from the reality of the monster behind us. I am running to draw the danger away from his quiet, peaceful life. I am spiraling the boundaries of reality and delusion, melting away into a toxic soup of absolute panic. My feet pound against the concrete, the heavy footsteps behind me growing louder, sharper, closer. I can hear the rustle of a heavy jacket just yards behind me. The air is thinning out. The madness in my brain is screaming at me to stop, to turn and fight, but the primal urge to survive pushes my broken body forward. I turn down a gravel driveway, my ankles twisting, tears of sheer frustration and fear welling in my eyes. I need a sanctuary. I need a wall between myself and the entity that has haunted me every step tonight. I sprint blindly around the back corner of a darkened house, desperation tearing through my veins like fire, and a low, rusted cellar door built into the foundation. Without thinking, I throw myself downward, tearing my fingers on the iron latch. I pull it open, dive through the narrow opening, and tumble blindly into the pitch-black abyss of a basement. I hit the concrete floor hard, knocking the wind from my lungs. Gasping silently, I scramble backward into the dark, pressing my spine against the freezing damp concrete wall. I pull my knees tightly to my chest, curling into the smallest ball possible. I clamp both of my hands over my mouth, biting down on my own flesh to stifle the frantic, sobbing sounds rising from my throat. My eyes strain against the absolute blackness, wide and dilated, tracking the silver of amber street lamp light cutting through the gap in the cellar doors above. Footsteps crunch on the gravel outside. They stop right at the door. My heart stops beating altogether. The latch clicks. A heavy, rusted groan echoes through the basement as the cellar door is pulled open from the outside. A silhouette blocks the dim light, stepping down into the blackness with me. The heavy iron door slams shut behind the intruder, and a loud, mechanical thud echoes throughout the room. The exterior emergency latch, notorious for dropping into place when slammed too hard, has locked us from the outside with a heavy, rusted click. We are trapped in the dark together. A frantic, violent struggle erupts instantly in the pitch black. It is an explosion of raw primal chaos, screams of absolute terror, the tearing of heavy fabric, and the brutal sickening of impact of flesh and bone against solid concrete. Hands claw at the faces, teeth sink into skin. The air becomes heavy with the scent of sweet dust and blood. The copper taste in my mouth isn't fear anymore. It's the manic, electric thrill of the hunt. The heavy footsteps I heard tonight, they weren't following me. They were the rhythmic, agonizing pounding of my own obsession tracking him. David wasn't hunting me through the suburbs. I was trailing him. I had behind him the entire time, my mind so fractured by my own delusions that I projected my own predatory steps onto the night around me, hallucinating a pursuer to justify my own hunting instincts. I didn't dive into this basement to hide from a monster. I dragged my prize into the lair. I am the monster. But as his final strangled breath fades into the damp silence of the room, a terrible, laughing madness takes hold of my soul. In our chaotic, thrashing violence in the dark, we crashed heavily against the structural support of an old cellar. The heavy iron door hasn't just latched. The frame has buckled and jammed permanently from the impact. Worse still, as I try to stand over my prize, a sharp, white-hot agony rips through my lower body. In the blind chaos, a jagged, rusted piece of rebar protruding from the old foundation has pierced deep through my thigh, pinning me immovable to the blood-slicked concrete floor. I pull at it, but the pain makes my vision go white. I am anchored. The air in the sealed, windowless vault is already growing thick, cold, and utterly stale. It tastes of copper, damp earth, and impending rot. There are no vents. There is no one upstairs. No one knows I am here, and no one knows David is missing yet. A manic giggle bubbles up from my chest, escaping my lips and bouncing mockingly off the concrete walls. The sound morphs into a hysterical, echoing laugh as I realize the beautiful, horrific truth. My plan worked perfectly. I finally have him, all to myself, forever. In the absolute pitch-black silence, I reach out with trembling hands. I drag David's cold, still hand into my lap. I gently stroke his lifeless fingers, weeping tears of pure, ecstatic despair as the oxygen in the room slowly runs out. My breathing becomes shallow. The suffocation is tightening its grip around my throat. In this pitch-black, airless tomb of my own making, the dark is closing in fast, and there is absolutely no exit for either of us.